What's happening YouTube? Welcome back to another video. This is Champion 2D Rob back again, and this is going to be my Sega Saturn pickups. Basically what I've picked up now for the last maybe 3 or 4 months, and I've got some great games here. It also I bought quite a few games over the month of May, as it was my birthday, so I did actually treat myself a little bit more. But I also got one accessory as well for the Sega Saturn, and I've been loving it, mate. I've been absolutely loving it. It's been just so much fun exploring the library of games, discovering new games for the first time, and also games that I've just always wanted to try for years, and I'm finally getting around to playing them, because a lot of these titles as well were arcade games when I was a kid, but because I never bought a Saturn, I never got to experience them back in the day, whereas I might have experienced them in the arcade. So it's just sort of nice to finally experience the home ports of a lot of these games as well. But so let's just gonna go straight into it, guys. Very first thing I picked up, sorry, I should point out that none of this is in any particular order. I'm just in order for this to flow better, it's just that's why I'm doing it this way. But anyway, so the first thing I've got here is the Sega Saturn 3D controller, and this, in my opinion, is a must. You need this if you're going to get a Sega Saturn, whether it be the PAL version, NTSC American version, or the Japanese version. I think you should definitely get this. I bought this primarily because I own both Nights into Dreams titles, and I tried playing it with the directional pad. Not very good, so I wanted to experience it how it was meant to be played with the analog stick 3D controller. But the added benefits of having this as well is that it's also really good for some racing games. Some games that have been said are very tricky to play using the D-pad. So yeah, absolute must-have. So following on from segue from that, one of the games here I picked up is Sega Touring Cars. Now this is a game that I've known about for many years, and one of the main complaints I've heard about this game is that it has very tricky handling. It's one of those Sega arcade ports. I remember seeing it in the arcades, but I never actually played it, because at the time I was just obsessed with Daytona USA. That was like my favorite Sega arcade racing game. So not many of the others didn't really get much playtime from me. But I do remember people having a lot of sort of issues with this game, and one of the main issues, of course, was the controls. People said that it was just very difficult to steer properly. It was just very finicky. But what I have heard, as I was doing sort of more research into the game and stuff, some people have said that it's actually a lot more playable if you use the analog stick. So I've actually played it both ways now, because the very first time I put this game on, I actually played it with the D-pad, because I wanted to see what it was like. I wanted to see what the issue was, and if I would also struggle. And in all honesty, guys, I didn't really struggle with the D-pad. I actually played the game, no different than any other racing game, to be perfectly honest with you. So I don't know, I think I know maybe some issue. Obviously some people are better at some games than other people, but I don't know, like me personally, I didn't think it was any worse than, say, like Wipeout on the PlayStation 1, like the original Wipeout. I mean, sure, it's tricky, but you just need to get a handle on how you tap the D-pad in order to turn. But that being said, though, it is actually a lot easier to control using the analog stick. It's just the amount of pressure that you put on it so that the car doesn't go veering off to the left or to the right. So you can take those curbs. And so I actually did not struggle with this game the way I was expecting to, just based on what I'd heard. But I find it to be a really fun racer. Probably the one thing I don't like about the game, and to be fair, I did know this before I bought the game, is that it's not a pretty game. I do think it's very ugly. I think it definitely could have done a bit more time in in development to spruce up the graphics a little bit more. It's just not very nice looking. Even on a 30-bit, 2-bit system, it could have been done a lot nicer. But it is very fast. It is for me, it's playable, and I do enjoy it. So yeah, I'm glad to get this one. I actually won it in an auction. I didn't pay a lot for it. I think I only paid like 11 quid for it. So yeah, really happy to get that one. And the next one, now I actually got this from the same seller. I won it in a separate auction, and that game is Wangan Dead Heat. So this is also a racing game. This game actually reminds me a lot of Ridge Racer, or the original Ridge Racer on the PlayStation 1. Graphically, it looks kind of similar, and it has very similar gameplay mechanics. Although the one very interesting aspect of this game is that you also get like a girlfriend who appears in full motion video. So you get to choose. You can see here, you've got a selection of lovely ladies. And I mean, obviously I can't really understand what they're saying because they are speaking in Japanese. But I get the opinion that if you fail, she berates you. But if you succeed, then she encourages you and whatnot. I haven't got very far into this game, so I can't really sort of specify how deep that goes. But I found that quite interesting, quite novel. And I'd actually heard about this sort of semi-dating aspect to the game as well. The game is primarily a racing game, first and foremost, but I just found that novel to be I found it to be such a very novel thing, and I wanted to check it out. Again, I won this on auction. It wasn't a lot of money. I think I paid £12 for it, and I think, oh no, it doesn't. Actually, just looking at the inlay as well, like you can see here, the girl by the car, like it really is just a very Japanese thing. I don't think we'd ever see something like this in the West. But yeah, really fun game though. I actually do like the controls on this. Like there's a lot of drifting, very Ridge Racer like, but it is tough though. I've yet to win a race. It is hard. Okay, moving on. So that is basically the racers. Now we're going on to some shooters that I picked up here. I've got some cool titles here. I think the first one I'm going to start with, and this is a game that, again, I've wanted to add this one into the collection for a while. I am a fan of this series. I've played different games in this series on different consoles, and I've heard this one is a very good one. From the gameplay I've seen, it looks a lot of fun as well. Definitely up my street. 2D action, shooting, and that is Assault Suit Lanos 2. So I am familiar with the original Assault Suit Lanos. There's quite a few versions of them. I'm familiar with the one that was on the Super Nintendo that was known as Cybernator. I also have played the version that was on the PS2, which also was just Assault Suit Lanos. And I think I've played, what was it, Target Earth on the Mega Drive. I played one of the ones on the Mega Drive as well. And there's been other games like it that have come out on more modern consoles as well. But this is a really good one actually. I really do like this one. I love the graphical style of it. The sprite base, the action, it's very, very cool. Very much like Cybernator, although it has, rather than having sort of platforms, it is sort of like straight action. I don't want to say run and gun because it's a little bit too slow for a run and gun, but it is kind of that ilk. But yeah, really cool one to get actually. And just trying to see here. Yep, I did get a spine card with it as well as the some extra precaution leaflets and whatnot. So yeah, really, really cool to get this one. And now it's all coming out. So just give me 1 second. Okay. All right, moving on. Next one I have here, and this is a game that I won't lie, I've heard about this game, I've known about this game for a while, and just for its absolute weirdness, something that could only come out of Japan, I had to pick this up. I had to own this game, and I will admit though, when I finally got around to playing it, I wasn't very impressed. But you know, it's just so weird. You'll never see this sort of game again. And that is, I believe it's called ChoCho ChoCho Nikki, and it's got something else I can't quite remember. If I can find it, I'll put it down here so you can see it. But this is a horizontal shooter, and it's very weird. It's about, I think you're fighting muscular guys, and you've definitely seen this. It's very, very weird, but it is a shoot 'em up in principle. Just a very, very weird one that just has a lot of muscular dudes and I don't know, like weird creatures, and it's just a weird game that you'd only see in Japan, and I wanted to experience it because, you know, sometimes I just really like really weird Japanese stuff, and while it isn't really a game that will hold my attention for that long, because I will admit when I played the game the novelty wore off very quickly, but it's just such a weird game, and I thought that alone would just make it worth owning. But from a gameplay standpoint, as a shooter itself, it's very basic. There's not really much to it, to be honest. All it really has going for it is the visuals, and they are interesting. I won't say no to that. But in my opinion, you don't really need this in your collection. But like, it is definitely one of those games that, you know, if you just like that quirkiness, you know, it's a cool one to own. Next shooter I got here. Now this is basically one game that, you know, it's been recommended to me by a lot of people. I know it's not the best of the Saturn shooters. In fact, the sequel to this game is a lot more popular, but I wanted to start at the beginning, and I picked up Parche. So yeah, it's a really cool shooter. I actually quite enjoy it. I don't really know much about it. I mean, I'm aware of Parche and Parche, but you know, again, I'm not a shooter expert by any means, so a lot of these games sort of go over my head, you know, but you know, it's from Atlas, and it looks like a really cool game, and from what I've played of it, it is cool. It's very colourful, sprite based, you know, very much appeals to me on the visual level, but you know, I can't really say it's a genre defying or anything like that. I mean, maybe it is, maybe it isn't, I don't know, but it is a fun shooter, and that's basically the takeaway I get from it. So yeah, whether I'll get the sequel, we'll see, but yeah, really fun game though. I do enjoy this one. And the last shooter I picked up here, and this is one I'm very familiar with, and I'm sure a lot of you are as well, and that is the Pop and Twimby deluxe pack. So yeah, this has basically got two Pop and Twimby games. One of them, I believe, is the one that was also ported to the Super Nintendo, which I also own. Very fun game. But this, of course, you know, having better music, slightly better graphics, it's definitely very cool, and it also has a different game as well. I haven't put too much time into it, but I do enjoy the Pop and Twimby. I like the colours, I like the cuteness of it. You know, I like the sort of design aesthetic of it. It really does appeal to me. Like, I've always liked it ever since the Super Nintendo version. I actually do own both Pop and Twimby titles on the Super Nintendo. There was obviously the shooter that everyone knows, and then there was a platform game which is called Rainbow Bell Adventures. I really like that game as well. Yeah, just a really fun, colourful shoot 'em up, and I do enjoy it quite a bit. So glad to get that one. And now we are moving on to the fighting games that I've picked up. Now, I have got some really good ones here. So I'll start with this one. And this is one that I've had my eye on a long time, but I was on the fence about picking it up. When I first saw it, I actually thought it was a sequel to a fighting game that I already owned. But when I started to dig a little deeper, I found out that it wasn't actually a sequel, but more of like an updated version of that game. So it has more characters, some new stages, and it has been rebalanced and whatnot. But I mean, from the outer cover, you think it was a totally different game. And the one I'm talking about is, and I can't remember what this is called now, it's really annoying. It's called Cebu Outlaw. I'll put it down here, guys. You'll see it for yourself. I'll just write it down here. But it's basically the updated version of a title that I did show in one of my earlier videos. It's the one that has the tiger on it, and I really do like that fighting game. I thought it's a really cool fighting title. It's not amazing, but I just find it to be a really enjoyable game. So I wanted to check this one out. And this one comes in a double disc case for some reason, even though it's just one disc. But yeah, you know, it's a nice condition otherwise. Does have the manual and everything, and yeah, it's just got added characters and stuff. So I just thought it was worth picking up. Wasn't expensive either, but it is actually pricier than the original title, but not as much as some of the other fighting games. But in any case, really chuffed to get this one. Just another unique title that I've not been too familiar with since I got my Saturn. So just nice to get sort of like a more of an updated, rebalanced version of that game. So yeah, nice one to have. And let's see, next one I've got here. And again, this was one that I did sort of consider whether to pick it up or not. But at the end of the day, I did want to go for a lot of the Capcom fighters, you know, whether they're collections or whatnot. I did want to own them. So I ended up picking up the Capcom Generations number 5. So this one basically has Street Fighter 2, Street Fighter 2 Turbo, and is it Hyper Street Fighter 2? It's basically got 3 versions of Street Fighter 2. And you know, is this necessary? Not really, you know, especially given the price. But I thought to myself, like, you know, if I'm a big Street Fighter 2 head, like I loved Street Fighter 2 growing up, and I figured, you know, this is probably the best system to play the classic Street Fighter 2 games on. So for me, it was worth it. Whether it be worth it for you, it just really depends on your love of Street Fighter 2, and because this is not cheap. You know, but in any case, I was very glad to get this. It's in lovely condition as well, and it does come with the spine card. So really happy to get this one actually. I love playing it on to be honest, I love playing all the 2D Capcom fighters on the Saturn. It's just such a great system to play it on. The controller is just fantastic for them, and for me this was just a nice one to have. And if any of you guys are wondering, am I going to get the Capcom Generations 1 to 4? No, I'm not. A lot of those, I either have them on other compilations, and they just don't really appeal to me enough to spend the kind of money, because they are very expensive. Unlike the PAL version that came out on the PlayStation 1 that actually came as, I think the first 4 discs were put in one compilation pack on the PAL PlayStation. And then this version, disc 5, was put out as its own separate compilation. You know, I don't think it's worth it, because they are quite expensive on the Japanese Saturn, individually speaking. So for me, it's not really worth it. But for me, this one is really what I wanted to get. So I am very happy getting this one. Next one I've got here, and this is one that I've been looking at for a long time. It definitely appealed to me. Visually, I think the graphics look great, and I wasn't too sure how it plays, but you know, fortunately it does play really well. And the game I'm talking about is Burning Fest Limited. This is a really good fighter. At first when I first started playing this game, I was completely unsure about it. I started playing it, and it was just so full on. Like honestly, the CPU characters were like just relentless, like just coming at you. Like it was really hard to get a grip on the game itself. And then it quickly just sort of clicked with me that this is actually a very combo intensive game. Like once you learn the combos, then you can finally start going at these characters. And once I started to learn the rhythm of the game, like combinations and stuff, I ended up playing a lot better and started winning matches, because the AI in your opponents are like like relentless. Like they will just go for you, go for you, go for you. It's sort of just like an arcade game. You know, it doesn't seem to have the balancing of what you usually get from a home port of an arcade game. This one plays like a straight up arcade game. It's trying to take your money, and it is pretty tough. But like I say, once you get the combinations down, the game becomes way more manageable. And I actually found myself really enjoying the game once I start, because the move stuff it's very Street Fighter-esque. So if you know how to play Street Fighter, then you'll know how to get through in this game. But what you really do need to learn is the combos to get through this game. And visually it's very nice, it's very cool. Yeah, a great one to have in my opinion, so chuffed with that. Next one I have here, and this is one again I was on the fence about getting, wasn't too sure. It looks, to be honest, like I already own this on the, it shows up, it's a beat 'em up, and it's on the Capcom beat 'em up bundle. So I was unsure about picking this one up. I've been on the fence about it for a long time, but I saw it for a decent price, so I thought I would get it, because you know it is a beat 'em up, and me and beat 'em ups, you know, kind of need to be had. Basically the same sort of thing as the same sort of thoughts I had with the Dungeons and Dragons games, because I already owned them on other systems. I thought, is it worth getting for the Saturn? But for me, it kind of was, because I'm a big beat 'em up head. So yeah, glad to pick this one up, and that is Warriors of Fate 2. And yeah, so this is a side-scrolling beat 'em up. You guys have probably played it by now if you've played the beat 'em up bundle collection. But yeah, just a really cool one to have. And yeah, it does come with a spine card as well. Really chuffed to get this one. Really fun side-scrolling beat 'em up. Definitely check it out, guys. Just play it on the compilation. Give it a chance. It's a really cool beat 'em up from Capcom. Okay, last two games here, and these two for me, big hitters. Definitely games I really wanted for the collection. Really chuffed with this one, and I got it in a really nice condition as well. So I've actually been really lucky. This is a big box release. Really chuffed to get this. Just biding my time, waiting for a nice condition one to show up. So chuffed to finally have this one in the collection, and that is Marvel Superheroes versus Street Fighter. And this one is in lovely nick for its age. Honestly, can't really complain. Really nice nick. And this game, honestly, like I've owned Marvel Superheroes versus Street Fighter on PlayStation, but like X-Men versus Street Fighter, this version is just on another level. Like the extra RAM just makes this thing just so different compared to the PlayStation version. It really is. But what's also awesome about the Japanese Saturn release is there's actually an exclusive character that was only put out on the Japanese version, and that's like he's like a I believe he's like a Japanese comedian, and he is playable from the get-go, so you don't have to unlock him or anything. He is there on the screen from the off, and he's quite a funny character to use. So yeah, I'm really chuffed to get this one in such nice condition as well. So it comes with a RAM card, really nice condition, everything here. Really chuffed with it. This is definitely, I think, probably the last big box that I needed, and really chuffed to get this one. So happy, because yeah, I've always enjoyed these Marvel versus Capcom games. Since the mid-90s, ever since X-Men Children of the Atom, I've just loved all those games, and this is just a fantastic one to finish on. So really happy to get that one. And lastly, guys, this game for me, a big hitter, a very big hitter, not cheap whatsoever. But I'm glad to get it because it's an awesome fighter. Now, I was unsure about getting it just because of the price, but the game itself is a lot of fun, and I have to say it's also one of the best looking 2D fighters on the Saturn, hands down. Like I still think if this was on like on a Dreamcast, it would still look great. But yeah, really chuffed to get this one. It wasn't cheap. You know, I was taking a punt on it as well to some degree, because I've never played it. You know, I've never played it on emulation or nothing. I wasn't too sure if the game was going to be my cup of tea, and you'll know why when you see it. But the game I'm talking about is Astra Superstars. Now, this is a game from Sunsoft, and what makes this game different, it's a 2D fighter, but what makes this game different is the fact that you're actually fighting in the air. So while you do fight on a 2D plane, you can actually go underneath your opponent and also above your opponent as well. So there's no jumping as such, you just sort of maneuver around them. And it is a very unique looking game, just big, massive 2D sprites. It plays super fast because this also takes advantage of the RAM card as well, I should add. But yeah, it's got some beautiful sprite work going on. So the animations on this game is just fantastic. And I do believe actually as well, yeah, it does come complete with the inserts and the spine card as well. And yeah, this was definitely high on my list. Definitely one of the big gets for me, and one of the priciest titles on the Sega Saturn. And I'm really chuffed to get it, because once I started playing it, it totally lived up for me. I loved it. But that being said though, I will say that I do think this game is a Marmite game. And for those of you that don't know what I mean by that, it basically means it's a love or hate game. I do think that it's not going to appeal to everyone, because while it is a 2D fighter, it doesn't adhere to the usual rules of a 2D fighter, which might put some people off. But for me, it worked, mostly because I've actually been desensitized to this type of game. When I started playing this game, it reminded me a lot of the Dragon Ball Z game, Supersonic Fighters, that was on the Game Boy Advance and the DS as well. And those essentially functioned in a very similar way. You know, it's a 2D game, but you can move around your opponent. And of course, a 3D counterpart to that would be a game like Psychic Force on the PlayStation. That game, even though it's in 3D, has the same sort of controls as well. So I'm actually used to these sorts of fighters, but this one definitely is one of the better ones, and it just looks amazing. This is hands down, and I'm factoring in all the Capcom fighters into this. This is one of the best looking, if not the best looking, Saturn 2D fighter. Graphically, it's amazing, honestly. And I'll say this, like, not even watching on footage on YouTube does it justice. Like, you need to watch it in person. If you actually watch it on your screen and you see it moving, you'll see the details in the graphics. It's fantastic. So yeah, very happy to get this one. This was a big get for me. And yeah, I don't know what else in terms of fighters that I still need. If there's any ones that you think I'm missing out, guys, let me know in the comments below, guys. 2D fighters, of course, is what I'm talking about. So I know there's a couple of ones that I've still yet to get, but I'm still deciding what to get them. And as far as I'm concerned, I've definitely gotten the cream of the crop in terms of 2D fighters. So yeah, chuffed a bit. So that is it, guys. I'm not going to leave you hanging around too any longer, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Of course, leave your thoughts down in the comment box below. I'd like to hear your thoughts. Are there any other games you think I'm missing out, guys? Let me know in the comments. I'd like to hear your thoughts. What are your thoughts on these games? I'd like to hear as well. Do you think the accessory, the analog control stick, is worth owning? Yeah, like I say, guys, I always do appreciate your input. So thank you very much for watching, guys, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.